Welcome to our winter series. We're back at Hillside Farm and we have a special treat today. We are going to go ahead and take a field trip. A friend started a company doing a sourdough, so we're going to go learn all about sourdough. Come join me, it's going to be great. We're here. I can smell fresh bread outside. That's how good it is. Hey,
hi, how are you?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you. I'm so excited about this.
Welcome.
Welcome to our winter series and our field trip that I told you we were going to take. We are at my friend John Goncher's house, and I can't wait for you to hear his story. He is an entrepreneur. I understand what that feels like, and his story is really exciting. So, John, welcome. I say welcome, I'm in your house. But where are we right now? What room is this?
So we are in the Wild Yeast Bakehouse micro bakery. This is the former living room.
I was going to say it's a living room because there's a fireplace
There's
right
a fireplace,
there.
some nice artwork, some drapes, all the things you would expect to see in a small bakery.
So I want you to take us back. First of all, how many years do we go back when this started?
We're coming up on 4 years. It will be April since it was officially launched.
So it was during COVID.
Yes, yes.
And what were you doing before this launched?
So I was 25 plus years in corporate finance. So I was not accounting by trade, but I was various roles in finance with a lot of small organizations. My last position was a CFO position with a startup energy company.
Okay. So here he is. He's had all these years of that. COVID hits and everything changes. And first of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I even know John. Both of us have kids the same age, and we have swimmers, and we would be on the pool deck for a very long time together. His wife was also on the board with my husband. So when I get a call from one of my daughters who says, "Oh my gosh, Mom, do you know what Mr. Goncher's doing?" And I was like, no. And I hadn't seen John, and it had been a couple years since I'd even seen you because of COVID. I was like, all right, Goncher, okay, finance, what is he doing? And they said, he's selling sourdough. He's making sourdough bread. And that had a ring in my kids' ears because they love all things sourdough for the reasons we're going to get into later when it comes to some different health things. But so tell us exactly how this happened.
Yeah, so it was just before COVID where it really started. I had ascended into different roles. I knew that there was something else I wanted to be doing. I was missing that kind of creative outlet. You know, to my surprise, accounting was not giving me that creative.
And I guess you were stuck at home all of a sudden and doing accounting.
Yeah, well, I was looking at different options on things to do. I was ready to leave the position I was in. I wanted to do something food related. I wanted to do something that reconnected me with the community here, because a lot of busy position, CFO, I would go to the office, I would come home in the evening and wouldn't really interact with the folks in the neighborhood here or in the surrounding area. The school activities, like the swimming, is where we interacted really with the other parents and other families in the area. But as the kids were getting a little older and ready to exit high school, that was disappearing. So I knew I wanted to do something that would bring me a little closer to the community. Again, this was pre-COVID. I was looking at different food options. I was looking at...
Wait, okay, can we back up for 1 second? Did you always know you wanted to get involved in food?
It was going to be food. I knew it was going to be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, again, it was, I avid cook,
Yeah, okay.
Amateur foodie, call it whatever you.
So we'll talk about you coming over and helping Bob later. But anyway, so you're into food. Are you looking at franchises? What are you looking at?
I was looking at food trucks. I was looking at culinary classes. I was looking at the gamut. I was ready to sign up for a few basic cooking classes at Delaware Community College. I mean, I was exploring really everything. And then everything locked down. That's when it really started to, all of my options all of a sudden seemed to kind of contract. And I took a good look at what was still operating, what was thriving, and bakeries were still doing really well. So I started going down that road. I am more of the mad scientist approach. I need to tinker with a lot of things, so very rigorous, very precise baking is a tough thing for me. But I looked into breads. We had a few in the area that were still doing different kinds of breads. No one was really doing the pure sourdough. That's one thing that jumped out.
I want to know, what was Linda, your wife, and your kids thinking at this time?
I believe they thought it was a nice thing to think about.
A hobby.
Yeah, a nice hobby.
Until their living room turns into a kitchen.
Yeah, we started in the kitchen. We started with the single oven, then the double oven. So I was doing 4 loaves at a time.
Were you selling those loaves? What were you doing?
I was giving them away early. My first order came in December of 2019 for 6 loaves.
From
6
a neighbor,
loaves from a friend who wanted to do a gift for colleagues at work.
Okay.
6 loaves, and I thought that was all of it was all I could handle.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, that's really what got me started. That was the first order. And then the gifts turned into repeat requests, and hey, this is great, and it started to expand from there. And that helped me to really kind of shape the model of what we do. And again, people were home. They were home. This was something that really appealed to people quickly.
Well, I think that's from there. My daughter called me, and we immediately got on the internet and we ordered, and we'll go into that too. Actually, we can talk about that right now. Because he started with the original sourdough, and how many types do you do now?
So everything I do is sourdough. I do about 30 different loaves.
So give us some idea of flavors.
Okay, so all of the different grains. So when we get into the whole grains, the whole wheat, the ancient grains, so emmer, einkorn, spelt, flavors of things. So from white loaves, just plain sourdough loaves, cinnamon raisin, cranberry orange. I do some oat porridge loaf with baked oatmeal inside, polenta loaves, olive, some chocolate cherry, fig, and cacao loaves, and really the gamut. And I've started to also branch out and do sourdough focaccia with all kinds of toppings and
you do cookies even.
And, at the farmer's market now, cookies too.
So why, and my daughters and I have had this conversation, because she's like, Mom, it has to be sourdough. I can't do regular bread. It has a lower glycemic effect. And what it means by that is your sugar doesn't spike like it does with regular bread. Can you tell me some other health benefits?
Sure.
Why people are tending towards sourdough as opposed to?
Right. So sourdough, it's important to at least mention this, that sourdough isn't a flavor. It's a process. It's that slow fermentation process. So when I say I have a sourdough loaf, I call a plain loaf a sourdough loaf because that's what people associate with it. Usually it's the San Francisco type sourdough loaf. But really sourdough is the process of the slow fermentation where the natural yeast and bacteria break down the different components of the grain. And that's what makes it more digestible. That's what makes it more nutritious, because your body's able to absorb more of the minerals and everything else that's in the grain.
Okay.
That long fermentation process is what breaks down the gluten, which allows people who are gluten sensitive, not gluten-free. Not gluten-free.
But my brother's gluten sensitive. He's had Lyme's, and so literally gluten messes with him.
Yes.
He's not the extreme, but he can do sourdough.
I've had one person who has come back and said, yeah, I still have a little bit of an issue, but by far it's the most success they've had. And I have a lot of, I've heard from people at the farmers market, a lot of my subscription customers, people at the Villanova campus who have the bread there at the coffee shop, that it's remarkable that they can actually
Digest
eat this
it,
because it goes through that long fermentation process. And when you get commercial bread or you get sourdough in a store where it's more chemically produced sourdough, that long fermentation process isn't there. That bread's start to finish in an hour or two. Creating the starter, that was always the holdup for me. It was trying to get that to happen, and I found plenty of good resources online and Instagram accounts that walk you through it step by step. And it took me 4 or 5 times to really get it to start. I remember coming down one morning, and I would have the jar in the oven with the light on overnight, and that would give it just enough heat without it being too much. And one day I came down and it had doubled, and I'm like, oh, this might be it.
This is it.
And a few days later, it was going through that whole process of every day you're feeding it and taking some out and letting it do its thing over and over and over again. And then after a few weeks, you've got something that's really healthy and vibrant, and it's ready to start making bread. But it's frustrating. It's so frustrating when it doesn't work. I've tried to help people start them, and it takes a little bit of patience, it takes a little luck.
I'm so proud of you, but it combines your creativity and your desire to do bread as well as that mad scientist thing. And I don't have the mad scientist part, so for me, I just get frustrated and I'm like, let's get it moving, let's get it going. So, I'm so proud of you. So, okay, when did you move from the kitchen into the living room?
So,
which I'm sure Linda appreciated.
I was still supporting everybody from the home oven.
Okay.
I had started looking into the larger micro bakery ovens, but everyone was trying to get them during COVID. There was one in particular that was the most popular. It was a Belgian company that makes these electric stone deck ovens that they don't require any venting. They hold heat. They require an inch of space around them. They are what you would put in your house if you're crazy enough to try to do this yourself. Then what really changed the business really dramatically was in July, so we're just 4 months now, a call from the farmers market in Media.
Wow, I've never been to that farmer's market.
And they said, you were referred to us by one of our vendors at the Bryn Mawr Farmers Market, which I would go to each week. And we love your story, we like what you're producing, we lost our baker a few months ago, we have X number of people, do you think you could show up and bring 200 plus units of stuff each week? And I said, my goodness, I said, at the moment, no. I said, but if you can give me until October,
200.
rolling the dice that this oven was going to show up, I could do it. I think I could do it. And they were more than willing to wait. And I showed up there in October, and sure enough, I showed up with about 150 loaves of bread and a couple of trays of focaccia and little things here and there, and it all sold. And I was ready to go. And then, I guess midweek after that market, I said, oh my goodness, I have to go back. And what if no one shows up again? What if they bought it the first time and no one likes it? And they all showed up again, and they sold me out again, and that's when it really took off, because that was the difference between knowing that I was producing something that was good, but that I could do it at a scale where it started to make sense. I said, okay, now this is viable. I had hoped to get there, in a year or two. I had essentially done in the first 6 months what I'd hoped to accomplish 2-3 years out, if you go back and read the original plan of what I was doing.
And now, you've been in Philadelphia Inquirer, so that had to have helped. And then how many of the farmers markets are you in now?
I'm still only doing media. Because it really does takes Friday afternoon, most of Saturday to prep enough here to do that, because I'm doing everything else.
How many subscribers are you up to?
230.
Got to get on that list, I can tell you that.
So delivering Tuesday through Friday.
Okay, so let's talk about the delivering.
Yeah.
You have a truck now.
I have a truck now.
Okay.
It served two purposes. It allowed me to carry enough to the farmer's market, but it also was a place where I could keep everything during the week rather than empty the tent and everything else into the living room.
If you could give advice to somebody who's an entrepreneur who's just starting, whether it's bread or a book or whatever, what would be a top piece of advice you'd give?
I think so. In my background, I said I worked with a lot of small organizations. When I was doing even the finance roles, I was doing some merger and acquisition work. I was doing integration work with companies that we would acquire. What I found consistently with startups and entrepreneurs, people who ran those organizations, is an inherent ability to just kind of see through obstacles. They just don't. They don't exist. Everybody else can see them and say, are you thinking about this? What about this? We can't do it because of this. That mindset just doesn't click.
I'm still working on that mindset.
It's
my husband would be like, Ruth, think a little more it's hard. It's hard when you're not in your lane. Like for me, I am so far out of my lane. So it's just gaining confidence as you continue to.
And it's exactly that. It's having that confidence. For me, it was, well, how can I possibly do 6 loaves? So you do it, and then you move on. And then the next one is, well, how can I bring 150 loaves to a farmer's market? You do it, and then you move on. And I think that's what I would recommend. I mean, you have to be able to get there because most people will tell you there are you can't do that because of this. Yeah. Or in your mind, it will start to pop up that, there's no way I could do that. But once you do it, you move to the next one and the next one and the next one. And you start to think more about what happens if you don't take advantage of an opportunity than what if I do it and fail.
And you find, at least I've found, opportunities are coming from places you never expected. I have been
extremely, extremely fortunate. The first year and a half, 2 years was all word of mouth, which was wonderful. It fit the work over the last year. So you'd mentioned the Inquirer. There was a mainline media news in January. There was the Philadelphia Inquirer article in March. We won Best of Philly in July.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
But these things were coming, and I wasn't quite there yet, but at least I had I knew it was time to ask for some help, and the help paid off. The business more than doubled over the last year.
So at what point, do you want to continue scaling it out of the house? Or is this like, John's like, I'm good?
That's the question. That's the most challenging one at this point, because I'm at a point where it has to go one of two ways. It has to continue to grow, because I do need to bring the help on to manage the volume. I am doing almost 600 loaves a week out of this little room at this point.
Little room.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Do you sleep?
Not
very much?
Not much.
Okay, I would like you just to take us quickly. I know you've got family coming home and everything, but what are the stations? Where do you start? Like I looked in here. Am I allowed to open?
Sure. So that is tomorrow's bread. So that's where the loaves, when they're finished and put into the baskets, ferment overnight. So that long, slow fermentation that I talked about, sit in the refrigerator for 8 to 12 hours overnight, and then tomorrow morning those will come out, be turned out, placed into the ovens, which we had talked about earlier over here.
Oh, these are those special ovens?
So these are, yes, so thing 1 and thing 2. These are those Belgian micro bakery ovens that I talked about before. Still warm from this morning. They hold heat incredibly well. So 3 stone decks. I can do 12 small loaves, 6 of those larger loaves like that at a time. So added the second oven as an insurance policy somewhere down the road, but then once the volume really picked up over the summer, I had to put that one into production. So now we're running with 2 of those. Small commercial mixer, mix about 40 pounds of dough, 25 or so loaves at a time. And
look at this flour.
This little mixer. The bench where all the shaping and everything else takes place. Flour bags. this is what I have left at the moment.
Uh-huh.
So when a load comes in, it's 40,
Yeah.
40, 50-pound bags. So you will find it all over different parts of the house. You'll see it disguised as furniture. You'll see it as
Well,
any place I can find it.
what's over here?
Over here, so these are all bags, labels, everything else for packaging, all of the loaf pans for sandwich loaves, flour bins for mixing, baskets for putting the loaves into the refrigerator overnight. So I've got a good supply of those. Mixer for cookies and some other, the smaller baked goods, food processors. Slicer, hand slicer. Got to work on that. That's my next investment.
This is awesome. I think I remember coming here when the kids were little, and this was still a living room. So it's been, a while.
Yeah.
It's been a hot minute.
It has been, yeah. I've been in here now, it's getting almost 4 years. Maybe I've overstayed my welcome, but we're managing. I'm able to now keep it in here. When I first started and was doing the markets, I was spread out all over the place. It was a mess.
Well, I sure appreciate you, and I thank you. And I wish you nothing but crazy success so that you have to be in another. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put it in order.